Broncos pass on a quarterback in the first round, do not select one at number 12 overall. They went with Brock Bowers instead, which pretty fun, but who's your quarterback? And then the Raiders select Michael Penix Jr. as their quarterback at number 13 overall. All of this like, hey, his stock would be a round higher if we just take out the national title game. Apparently they did. The Raiders just went, pretend that game didn't happen. And then Michael Penix Jr., number 13 overall, exactly where people were saying he was going to go right before that game happened.
Doing mock drafts for all 32 teams are difficult because you're sitting there and Daniel's looking at this saying, okay, the Broncos need a quarterback. As we mentioned, we talked through this the other day. They don't have a second-round pick. Mm-hmm. So what the heck are they going to do? Like, what are they going to do? And the first 4 QBs are off the board. They could be in this position.
Hell.
So Daniel just goes with, hey, we'll take Brock Bowers. It felt like for the Broncos, he did not want to predict them, say, quote-unquote, forcing a QB, but he was okay with the Raiders. And I have no idea how much when an insider, like a Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, they're half insider, half evaluators, right?
Sure.
Maybe Mel's more insider now than evaluator, whatever it is. I wonder how much of that is just, I know Sean Payton won't value a Michael Penix. Or, they'll make a move for a Bo Nix later, what the thinking is. But it's interesting to see Penix's name in the top 13. And I feel like the buzz has soured a little bit on Penix. We're only talking about the top 4. But Penix going in the top 15, I think, is absolutely possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's what we were saying. Like, if you simply remove that game, the one game from his resume, we are talking about a guy that was seen as a mid-first rounder whose stock was going up. And then that one game happened. It's like, he's a second-round guy, max.
Yeah.
Like, he's a second-round option for teams. Teams don't want to take a guy in the first round. You can come back in the second, get Michael Penix Jr. I mean, it's the opposite of that C.J. Stroud conversation. How much should you weigh one game versus everything else? Because that's what's happening to his stock right now.
The other question with Penix is going to be, the early injuries. And they are, compare that to Laiatu Latu, who, by the way, goes 19 to the Rams here. And we had a question, I think, in the comments about his medical, right? I think Latu and Penix, the medical always comes up in conversation. But I think it's going to, I don't know how true this is necessarily. I haven't talked to all 32 teams.
So
I think it's going to land in the positive for those guys.
Well, just for people who don't know, what is Latu's medical situation?
He was Trevor has the full story, right? He asked him at the Senior Bowl, but he was medically retired at Washington.
Right.
And I think it was like a little extreme. It comes across as it was a little extreme. It was kind of forced a little bit.
It was a neck injury, right?
Yeah.
He had a neck injury, and the team's medical staff effectively determined that it was best for him not to play on through it, and they retired him. And then he went elsewhere, and other people have had recovered, rehabbed, etc.
Yeah, second opinions.
Yeah, and then other people essentially have determined, now you're good.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying. I feel like that is probably enough in the rearview mirror that he'll be okay. And then the Penix one, he had 2 ACLs at Indiana.
Right.
That was 4 or 5 years ago. And it's another one. He's played 3 full seasons since that point. And he's a little bit older, maybe the age thing comes in. But I think that's enough in the rearview mirror that people aren't concerned about, hey, the'll be dude's going to tear an ACL every other year.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen enough players have multiple ACL tears and still been functional NFL players after that. It's not like 2 ACL tears equals chronic knee problems. Like Thomas Davis, didn't he tear one back-to-back, years, the same ACL, pop, 2 consecutive seasons and then came back? It's not, an ACL, again, I've never torn my ACL, so I'm not speaking from a position of experience, but they have become relatively routine injuries in today's NFL. It's not like, assuming there's no, additional ancillary damage when you do the ACL, it's not like you're going to have permanent knee problems just because you tore an ACL. Even if you tear an ACL more than once, it doesn't necessarily mean that the man's knees are, balsa wood.